Right, see how we go, eh? Get organised up here. And I've known Shirley for as long as my brother Sam has been with Diane, which is well over 45 years. So I go back a long way with Shirley, so this is going to be quite difficult. I'm a bit nervous, but that's normal. And having known Sam for 45 years, I feel a bit sorry for Shirley, to be quite honest with you. I share a special relationship with Shirley, as only Sam does.
Thank you.
But yeah, also, what has been a difficult time for the Hector family, especially in the last couple of weeks. We're going to offer our love and support to Shirley's son Kevin and his family with the recent loss of Geraldine and Jet. So today we all mourn together. It's impossible to sum up a person's life in a eulogy, especially when that person lived to the age of 92 and crammed so much into her life. You'll all have your Shirley memories and they will remain with you for eternity. So I just invite you for a split second to think of your favourite Shirley memory. You know, would it be the son-in-law Ken teaching her to drive? That would have been an interesting memory. A family is not an important thing, it's everything. That was Shirley's mantra in life and her family responded accordingly. They all played their part when she needed them most. A sign of how a parent is treated or cared for later in life by her family is reflected by how she cared for and loved them when they were young and growing up. To Shirley's children, you repaid her in spades. Thank you. Shirley was born in Port Pirie, the 3rd of the 12th of 1930. She was a child of the Depression. She was the 5th born child to Oswald and Rose and was one of 14 children. The family relocated to Jamestown where she would meet her eventual husband Ron at the Jamestown Public School. She left school in 1944, joining the workforce at the age of 14. But there's a skip there, isn't there? She went through the war years from 1939 to 1945. That would have been tough for any young person growing up during World War II. Shirley went through that. And I've gone on script already. But where she joining the workforce at the age of 14, where she took up house cleaning duties for 15 shillings a week, and the money she earned went to her father to help support her family. She left after 4 years to make a better earning at the Jamestown Hospital as a cleaner and took up full-time position on the maternity ward. And when one thinks of it, a hospital is a convenient place for Shirley to work, as all throughout her life she was always breaking something: collarbones, ankles, arms, toes, and the list goes on. She was forever covered in bruises. There she had to arrive at 6 a.m, wash all the nappies and make the patients their breakfast. As you can see. During this time, she was playing the tambourine in the Salvation Army band, where she became acquainted with a friend of her brother's and past classmate Ronald Gilbert Hector, who was a Salvation Army youth soldier. Both 17 and 18 at the time, the two began seeing each other and were instantly drawn to one another, and their relationship quickly blossomed. During their dating period, Shirley recalled the first and only time her and Ron ever had a dance together, when at a function, an Elvis Presley tune, "There Goes My Everything," was played. Ron sauntered over and declared to her, "Please dance with me," which was a large feat for Ron, as he was not a dancer and he had 2 left feet. After 4 years of working at the General Hospital, Shirley left her job a week before her wedding. Ron and Shirley were married on the 12th of April 1952 at the Jamestown Salvation Army Church. A month later, Shirley fell pregnant. Always adamant that she fell pregnant the night of her wedding. During the pregnancy, Ron continued working at the local newspaper while Shirley for most part stayed home, sometimes helping out at the hospital when required. 8 months after their wedding, you can do the maths here, Shirley always claimed Charmaine came early. After 6 hours labour weighing 7 pounds 6 ounces, Shirley and Ron welcomed Charmaine Francis on the 15th of December 1952. When Charmaine was 3 months old, Shirley returned to the hospital working in the laundry. She would pedal across Jamestown, arrive at 3 a.m. and would not leave until 4:30 in the afternoon. She worked there for a month before falling pregnant with their second child. But however, their hard work had paid off when the young couple, 3 months later, Ron and Shirley, purchased their own house that joined on to Ron's grandmother's house looking over the Jamestown Creek. A few months later, Diane June was born on the 18th of February 1954. Ron and Shirley went on to have 6 more children. Gary Ronald, Peter James, Robin John, Michael Gilbert, Kevin Paul and Graham Anthony, a total of 8 children. A card was found recently that might explain how they come to so many children in such a short time. Now, someone found a card, very risque for its time. This was well before 1974. It's a Valentine's card. Sex isn't everything. Then you open it up, but it's way ahead of whatever is in second place. Happy Valentine's Day, love Ron. I think that's followed on in the Hector tradition. Now, in 1962, when Graham was a few months old, the family moved to Whyalla and rented a small house in Sampson Street until they were able to acquire a 4-bedroom house in Campbell Street. Shirley was known for having a slight temper in the early days of living in Whyalla. One notable incident occurred after her and Ron had a row, and Ron laughed at something she had done. Shirley threw a talcum powder tin at Ron, which was a good shot, with such force it split his forehead open and covered his uniform in powder just before he was due for work. Ron was a St John ambulance worker, and Shirley got involved with the St John's Auxiliary, providing catering for events such as engagements, weddings and 21sts. Shortly after moving into Campbell Street home, Ron became sick with a blood disease that was due to his working with the ink at the newspaper. Tragically, 13 years after their last born child, Shirley lost the love of her life. Ron passed away on the 2nd of October 1974 at the young age of 44. Shirley recalled saying goodbye to her beloved husband, remembering back to that very first dance. There goes my everything. Widowed with teenage children, Shirley decides to get her driver's licence. While taking a driving lesson with Charmaine's husband Ken told her to turn into the front driveway, take a hard right. Shirley drove the car into the driveway, straight into a pole on the front veranda, nearly driving straight into Kevin's bedroom. Ken got out to assess the damage while Shirley sat in the car in a panic. "Oh no, old girl," Ken said. Shirley said, "What have I done?" "Well, you put a dent on the veranda pole," Ken replied. "The car, there was not a scratch." Shirley's driving record did not improve much over the years, being involved in multiple fender benders, riding off 2 cars and being involved in a serious crash. Driving with Shirley made you feel like royalty. Unfortunately, the royalty you felt like was Princess Diane. That's not my word, please. Despite this, she kept her driver's licence until the age of 90, something she was very proud of, and the rest of us profoundly disappointed with. During Ron's final years, Reg Osborn, a good friend of Ron, from their time together working at St John's Ambulance, began helping Shirley to get to the hospital to visit Ron. During one of these visits, Ron told Reg that when he was gone, for Reg to keep an eye on Shirley and the kids for him. After Ron's passing, Reg would pop past and check in on the family as promised and help with any needs. When Reg asked Shirley to go to a dance, their friendship blossomed into romance. Reginald Johann Osborn and Shirley were married at the Salvation Army Citadel in Whyalla on the 6th of January 1979. They bought a house in Elliott Street along with a budgie called Sammy. I don't know if they named it after my brother. And they lived there for a few years before relocating to northern Western Australia in 1988. Sammy the Budgie did more trips across the Nullarbor than most truckies. This bird would live for 20 years, and Shirley mourned this bird's passing for the remainder of her life. During their time in Western Australia, Reg and Shirley were involved in a bad car crash. Okay, Shirley was driving. Shirley was uninjured, but Reg required surgery to a fixed broken hip. Now here's another little bit which was discovered when sorting through Shirley's large collection of photographs. The family found not one but two photographs of Reg's arse. One from the aftermath of the car crash, showing his surgery, scarring and stitches, and there was another one when he suffered from shingles. It would appear Shirley had a fetish with Reg's backside and was quite enthusiastic to whip out a camera and snap his rear end at any opportunity. During their time in Northern, Shirley sang in the Salvation Army band, became part of the Salvation Army Home League, made friends with a number of women in the local area who formed a group called the Monday Ladies. They began playing carpet bowls in her spare time in 1994. In 1994, Reg and Shirley came back to Whyalla and bought a house in Neil Street, where Shirley resided for the remainder of her years. They renovated the backyard, including a large greenhouse full of beautiful variety of irises, which were Shirley and Reg's favourite flower. Upon her return to Whyalla, she began playing 10-pin bowling for the Whyalla League. Shirley turned out to be a fantastic bowler, taking many trophies, including her most treasured trophy, awarded for bowling the perfect 300 points, which if anyone's bowled, that is one hell of an effort. But however, tragedy would strike once again. Reg suffered from a sudden heart aneurysm, which took his life. Reginald Osborn passed away on the 3rd of October 1997, leaving Shirley heartbroken and widowed once more. Shirley never dated or remarried after that, firmly stating she was lucky enough to have two wonderful men in her life and did not need a third, or just maybe her wonderful giving heart had been broken beyond repair. During the 2000s, she became a member of the Come and Go, a group of crafters who met every Wednesday at Bunyara and did a range of crafts each week. Shirley had found a new hobby and perfected the craft of plastic canvassing, or fancy work as she liked to call it. Many members of the family would receive wonderful woolen creations in the form of tissue boxes, doll houses, toy boxes and more. Shirley had a huge love for her family. She attended every function that she possibly could, made phone calls and home visits for every birthday, and was always keen to get up for a dance at parties, especially her favourite dances like the nut bush, the birdie dance and the hokey pokey. Shirley used to remind everyone that she was only one phone call away, and when on the phone to her, you'd get the same rundown each time. Her cleaning tasks for the day, the television program she tuned into, the day's menu. No detail was left out, and way too much information about her bowel movements. You would quite often find yourself wanting to get off the phone, but finding that it was near impossible to politely end the conversation. How much we would give now for 5 more minutes with Shirley. Shirley was a big eater, right until the very end. She loved her fish and chips from Barnacle Bill's. She was always conning the nurses at the home into giving her a second serving of ice cream, which she got. And especially when cutting up the serving of Judy's homemade cake at morning tea, she'd cut herself the largest piece and leave other guests just with a small sliver of cake to share between them. Like I said, she was born in the Depression. Morning tea was a staple for the family weekly Thursday morning routine. Cakes, coffee, biscuits, and a friendly conversation. It brought the family together. Many fond memories of the grandchildren is their Nana O's setting out the skivels and golf set, playing on the swings, and upon departure, having Shirley chase the car down the street while the kids waving out the car window saying, "See you later, Gert." Shirley was the matriarch of her family. She was supported, loved unconditionally, and loved to be surrounded by her people. whether it be friends or family, of which she had plenty. At the time of her passing, Shirley had 24 grandchildren, 74 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren, and there's three more great-grandchildren ready to be born, totaling up to 106 grandchildren. She knew and cherished every single one of them, and could recite every birthday and anniversary off by heart. Unfortunately, when diagnosed, she was no longer able to do the things she once knew and loved, but she was the same loving, cheeky, strong-willed person right until the end. At midnight on the 3rd of October, in the middle of both her husband's death dates, Shirley slipped away quietly, back into the arms of the two men who loved her dearly. In ending, there's a poem that maybe reflects what Shirley meant to her children. I'd like to thank Emily for helping to put this together. I'll try and get this one right. My mother kept a garden of the heart. She planted all the good things that gave my life its start. She turned me to sunshine and encouraged me to dream, fostering, nurturing the seeds of self-esteem. And when the winds and rains came, she protected me enough. But not too much, because she knew I needed to grow strong and tough. Her constant good example always taught me right from wrong, markers for my pathway that will last a lifetime long. I am my mother's garden. I am her legacy. And I hope today she feels the love reflected back from me, her children. Farewell, Gert. Farewell, Shirley. Rest in peace. Thank you for a wonderful life.